Paramija, who is already here with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Paramija, for being here this afternoon. So, before we start, I'd like to read out her CV first. So, Dr. Nur Paramija is from University of Teknologi Malaysia, and she earned her master and PhD degree in physics education and specializing in the field of scientific epistemology, nature of science. She actively contributed in the educational field in Malaysia, and for which she got many achievements and awards. And the latest one is professional learning community activities for primary science teachers in Johor. And next slide. She also is a member of International Society for Educational Initiative Malaysia. And her research interests, one of them is teaching and learning process in STEM field for primary, secondary, and higher education level. And she also has many publications, and the latest one in 2024 titled Emotions in Engineering Education, a Configurative Meta-Synthesis Systematic Review. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Nur Paramija. So Dr. Nur Paramija, thank you so much.
Live streaming. Live streaming itu kesimpan di HP apa? Enggak, di Facebook langsung sama di YouTube langsung. Berarti waktu itu minta download itu kan live streaming secara langsung.
Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Everyone, my name is Farah. So for today, my topic is on education for sustainability. Thank you for the chairperson today and also for the invitation. So basically, I done this work. This is an example of my research work with State Education Department. So if you see that these four guys, these are all education officers at state level. So university has been working with like, kalau di sini panggilnya dinas ya. We have been working with dinas people for research and also for training. So this is part of the project that we conducted together with the Johor Education State Department. So which language did you prefer me to deliver my presentation? Is it okay for me to mix or you want to be in full English? But just in case if my pace is too fast, just let me know so then I can repeat in Bahasa. So basically, when we talk about education and sustainability, everyone knew this would be the basic principle, which is to measure the environmental impact, to measure the social impact, and to measure the economic impact. But if you try to put these understandings at school level, it's going to be very big issue. Why? Because some of the concepts may not be relevant to schools. So if you give to the teachers, let's teach this aspect into your curriculum, they will think that this is a burden. Okay, so how actually we can do with teachers when it comes into professional education? So I really like to share, this is our teachers. This is one of the training that we did early this month. And I forgot to mention okay, great. So this is among the training that we do. So every year, UTM provide training for teachers. And for us to provide training, meaning that we also need to plan for research study. So we've been working with education for sustainability as a research since 2022 after COVID. We started to have like face-to-face training back after COVID. So like everyone is recovering, so having a face-to-face means that teachers are becoming more excited students, right? So if you notice here, science education begins to focus on social scientific issues and local wisdom in the context of Asian regions. But for Malaysians, we are more social scientific issues. But for Indonesians, I know that you have been using local wisdoms a lot in your curriculums, which is on the contrast to Malaysians. Yeah. So whatever it is, the purpose is this. Same. How are you going to educate teachers? Because teachers is the primary agents of change. Because mention is top down, so we require teacher to change first, then we can change whatever that have understood. So what kind of education? So we did a systematic literature analysis, and this is some of the important papers, the emerging papers nowadays in the literatures. You can see that there are a lot of trends in education for sustainability. So if you are interested in research about environmental education, education for sustainability, change agents, science citizens, nature of science, local wisdom, social scientific issues, then you are actually eligible to fall under this topic. But when I did a brief systematic literature review, we noticed that there are some consistent trends among the literatures when it comes to evaluating education for sustainability. The first one is most of them focus on evaluating school rules as an agent of change. So they begin to evaluate whether these schools have done how much efforts to fulfill education for sustainability. So they begin to give surveys, interviews. Some of them are even evaluating the administrations of the schools in order to achieve education for sustainability. Okay, others that focus on the students, they focus on evaluating students' actions competence. So they're going to evaluate students, how good students are learning about education for sustainability. The last one is evaluating teachers' professionalism on ESD. So among these trends, my interest is more on this category, which is on the professionalism, because we did a lot of professional trainings among our schools. So when we go into deeper literature's analysis, we notice that even under evaluating teachers' professional learning on ESD, it only focuses on one-time program. For example, this is like 1 year program, and the next following years, they are not doing the trainings again. So this is in contrast with what we have in Johor, which is the southern part of Malaysia, because this training has been held continuously. Okay, that will be the first gap that we notice on how we can actually elaborate on our effectiveness of our professional training. Alright, so when we realize that we begin from the international scopes of understanding educational sustainability in terms of the gaps, then we go into Malaysia's context of education for sustainability. So for Malaysian, sustainability education is not compulsory. We don't have that in the curriculum, but we have it as a cross-curriculum element. Kita namakan dia sebagai elemen merentas curriculum. So then you will be learning ESD in Arabic. You also will be learning ESD in science, in geography, and so on. So it's not part of the compulsory syllabus, but it's part of the themes or context that need to be addressed in teaching and learning. So since Malaysia also not recognize education for sustainability as a new discipline, so it's become very challenging to teach teachers to include ESD into their teaching practice. Right? So some of them view ESD as additional schools program, and also some of them view ESD as a bigger complexity compared to science itself. So you imagine science is already complex, then you try to put ESD into science, then it becomes even more complex. Right, so for this study, we use actions competence frameworks. So if you search on actions competence, this is the common frameworks being used to evaluate effectiveness for education for sustainability. And this is not a framework by ourselves, this is from literature. So in action competence, it has 3 components, which is knowledge of actions possibilities, confidence in one's own learning, and also the willingness to act. Right? So to adopt frameworks into practice, it's not as easy for you to apply theory for research. It's different. In your case, if you are doing a research, it's like having a theory and using those theory as a fundamental to build instruments, or having those theory to do as a basis for analysis. But in our case, we need to use the theory as a practice, meaning that you need to practice the theory. How do we do that? So, in order to translate the actions competence theory, we need to adopt reasonable person models to evaluate our schools. So, RPM is introduced by Kaplan and Kaplan 2002, and it consists of three important things, which is model building, being effective, and meaningful actions. So basically, we need to evaluate awareness, talents, actions, and competence. Alright, so to evaluate this, then we need to scope down. Just now we from international and then you go to national levels problem. Now at state level problems, we actually did not recognize university as the key players. In the literatures, none of them actually recognize university as the key players, which is in contrast in our situation. In our situation, university has become the key player to drive education for sustainability. We have been working with city councils, developers and agencies to make sure that schools are able to integrate education for sustainability. So this is not a work by Ministry of Education. This is a work by many different parties to ensure education for sustainability. Right, so this is the case that we done now. And we've been collecting data on measuring environmental, social and also economic. So how do we measure? How do UCM measures the impact? So since our schools have been trained, the teachers have been trained to deliver environmental components, social components, and also they need to generate income for their schools. For example, they are doing recycling activities, so they are having like income generations from the recycling. They are using used cooking oil as activities for ESD, so they are generating income for that particular activities. So we even have a school that managed to collect around 30,000 ringgit from recycling activities. So in Malaysia, kena cari duit sendiri. So we cannot rely on our government. So we have this kind of mindset. So how are we going to evaluate their practice? So when we try to evaluate, I need to identify the gaps between theories, practice, and also what I want as a way forward for the project. So in that case, we begin to look into how we can evaluate 1,189 schools in Johor. Okay, and then how we can evaluate the effectiveness of the implementation. So for this case, okay, we developed a system. So we developed a system known as e-Lestari. So it began from July 2022. And then we started with a focus group discussion. So why we do focus group discussion? Of course, because we need a need analysis. Because a need analysis is what will be determines what will be the specs of the system. So we did a lot of try and errors system. We do the pilot study and so on. So we follow all the research procedures. So the system that we developed is known as e-Lestari. So if you have time to Google e-Lestari Johor, okay, you will come across this site in which that each district officers, each state officers, each city council, and each school, either teachers or school administrators, they are allowed to log in into the system and monitors their progress in education for sustainability. So this is a yearly data collection that we have been doing since 2019 manually. But after COVID, we started with a new system, which is much more systematic and much more economic, because you don't have to go like one by one schools, 1,190 schools. Can you imagine the workloads as an officer? So we have a system. So by having this system monitoring, we have like live data. This is data analytics. We have live data on how much each school generate income, how much each school able to save money from their activities at school, and how much of carbon reductions contributed by each school. So they are all being monitored every year like this. So these are an examples of a dashboard. You will use their achievements by the standard score, might not see much from here, and also by the percentage of their documentations and verifications. So we have all those systems, all those procedures in our system. So it's is a real-time calculation, so meaning that each district is monitored at the same time. So as a state officer, this is really helpful in many ways on managing state syllabus activities. Right, so we also have like the database. It's become a database for everyone. Okay, and also have like what we call as energy audits for school. So we audit every energy consumption in each school. How much money they save from water saving? How much money they save from electric savings? Okay, how much money they generate from recycling? How much money? So there is a lot of data coming into the system. Alright, so since that analysis, we knew that whatever that we want from the data is actually to give some recognition for this group. So we begin to evaluate their performance in education for sustainability, and we cluster the schools into 3 categories. Showcase school, meaning you have done all the necessary components and you are eligible to be recognized as showcase school. Transition school, meaning you are in a way to move towards showcase, you are still learning on how to do ESD. And school that are not progressing at all, not doing anything, also is part of under monitoring system. So as a district officers, as principals or headmasters, you are able to know your current status in terms of education for sustainability. So these are among the data that we have. We have showcase schools. So the lowest trend that we have here is due to the COVID. Before COVID, we have like good numbers as a start. Okay, because we started from our action plan in 2019. So the numbers is really good in 2019. Then suddenly COVID datang, habis semua sekolah tutup, semua pokok mati, ikan mati apa lagi? Reput dan sebagainya. Alright. Okay, so we begin to start again in 2021. Okay, jadi kita boleh katakan in terms of achievement, we are very proud to see that the numbers of schools who are not participating at all become decreasing every year. So now at the moment for 2023, we only have like another 726 schools that need to be in focus and helps to move for education for sustainability. So these are also the income generation that they managed to collect, which is around 1 million ringgit. And electricity we save also around 1 million plus. And recycling, we managed to score more than 600,000 kilograms. Right? And also for the used oil, we collect around 25,000 of used oil. So the carbon reductions, of course, is going to help in many ways. But then again, just to share to you, this is a progressing analysis, meaning that having these states of achievements doesn't necessarily determine your next achievements in the following years. So as a state levels move way forward, we need to improve lots of data analytics in order for us to address schools that did not participate at all in ESD. Okay, so we have like 700 just now. Yeah, they are not doing anything. They just stay silent in their comfort zone. Right, so we also required to do some integration between ESD and STEM. This is our weaknesses in Malaysia. Maybe Indonesia has a better solutions because you have local wisdom. You are very lucky that you have this kind of concepts. Okay, local wisdom. What was the name in bahasa Indonesia?
Kearifan lokal.
Yeah, kearifan lokal. Tapi in Malaysia we don't have that. So when we don't have that, it's very difficult to blend between ESD and STEM. So if you ask Malaysian, what do you understand about making a dodol in science, they won't be able to answer you very well. But if you ask them, what would be the recyclable material that can be used to wrap dodol once it's being cooled down, they can answer you directly. Okay, so this is our weaknesses as a Malaysia. So this is a case study from my country. So I hope somehow benefits and inspires if you are state officers, if you are a teacher. This is a long run project. So you start small, then you will gain the bigger pictures in the end. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Farawida, for the presentation. For those who have questions to our invited speakers, you can raise your hand and ask the question to the presenter.
Soalan boleh guna bahasa biasa.
Is there any question maybe from the the participants?
Ada? Ada yang buat training tu cikgu? Ke semua sini bakal cikgu?
Saya cikgu.
Oh, cikgu.
Chemistry teacher in senior high school. Any question for you, Dr. Nur? Okay. About Elestari. Itu diterapkan di sekolah mana dan bagaimana?
Sekolah SD, sekolah SMA.
Oh, SD dan SMA saja.
Ya. At the moment. Sebab tu kita punya sekolah ada 1190 je baru. Jadi kita tak include lagi higher institution. So saya ada 2 database yang besar, which is satu for schools sebagai agent of change untuk ESD, and I have another system for community. So for community, we collect data from each household. Setiap rumah tu kita collect data dia. But that one, this one lagi susah. Sebab bila minta dekat rumah, minta bil api, bil air kan, dia tak nak bagi. Tak nak bagi. Kadang merayu-rayu kita minta isi dalam sistem. Community is very difficult. Tapi dekat Malaysia dah jadi trend in which we have like drive-thru event untuk recycle activity. So every month or every week, certain kawasan kampung ataupun community kita ada drive-thru. So, kita dah terbiasa kumpul baju, kumpul kotak dekat rumah, dan dah terbiasa buat kompos untuk pastikan environment kita bersih. Jadi kalau tengok budak sekolah dekat sekolah kan, dia ada satu kandang besar untuk kumpul kotak aja. Dan ada satu stesen untuk kumpul minyak terpakai daripada rumah. So minyak terpakai kalau dekat Malaysia satu botol macam ni, dia kecil ni, besar sikit, RM5. Jadi budak-budak ni seronok bawa serumak dia hantar pergi sekolah. Dapat duit free. Jadi benda-benda ni yang orang suka sebenarnya dengan ESD dekat Malaysia. Sebab dia ada elemen income generation. Tapi challenge kita orang, dia susah nak masuk dengan STEM. Alright, ada soalan lagi yang lain?
Ada tanggapan?
Iya, jadi masukan kalau di Indonesia kan belum ada seperti itu.
Ya, dekat Indonesia saya rasa challenge dia adalah untuk cari NGO, industri dengan pihak-pihak lain, contoh universiti untuk collaborate. Saya tak bekerja seorang. Universiti macam saya kata adalah kita ada banyak kita punya partner. So bila ada banyak stakeholders, maksudnya kita bukan bergerak seorang dan kita ada dana. Kita tak tunggu government. Kalau tunggu government dah. Cikgu kena start kecil lah. Buat je sikit-sikit and then dokumentkan. Kena tahu jadi pioneer nanti.
Alright, pending.
Maybe I have one question.
Alright,
So you mentioned that this ASD approach is not comes from the industry, but instead it comes from the church, the society.